Daniel Reed Smith, who went by DJ, was born on August 16, 1988, to Lisa and Daniel. A man of many talents, DJ was especially gifted in carpentry. At 29 years old, he was living in Summerville, South Carolina, and was a devoted father to his young son. Unfortunately, on August 11, 2018, a horrible tragedy occurred. DJ was found dead on a desolate stretch of railroad tracks near Ridgeville, South Carolina. His mother, Lisa, sadly heard the news over the police scanner. While no name was given on the scanner, she instantly knew it was DJ. DJ's stepfather, Eric Melendez, a seasoned investigator with the local solicitor's office, tried to find out more information, but apparently authorities on the case were being very tight-lipped. Investigators quickly ruled his death accidental, saying he wandered onto the train tracks and was hit, a theory that would hold up until September 2023, when the family received confirmation from an independent forensic pathologist that DJ's death involved foul play. It was determined that he had most likely been struck by a vehicle elsewhere before being left on the train tracks. On February 5, 2024, Lisa, Eric, and their attorney, Columbia-based lawyer Tucker Player, filed a wrongful death lawsuit on behalf of DJ's family. The lawsuit alleges that DJ was attacked during an altercation at a party. After fleeing the house, he was chased down and intentionally struck by a vehicle driven or occupied by Michael Bunch Sr., Trenton Hogg, Brandon Reynolds, and Corey Dunn. After DJ's death, others, including Steve Creel and Michael Arana, also known as Michael Muckenfuss, allegedly helped move his body and dump it on the tracks to conceal the crime. 3 unnamed individuals, listed as John Does, are also accused of fabricating statements to police, falsely claiming that DJ simply decided to walk home. Despite mounting evidence, the Dorchester County Sheriff's Office and the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, or SLED, declined to reopen or pursue the investigation. Even DJ's stepfather, who had decades of investigative experience, offered to help, but nothing ever came of it. Instead, the case was assigned to inexperienced detectives. The murder case was marred from the start. Key witnesses were never interviewed, and background checks into DJ's recent activities were never conducted. The official cause of death remains accidental, but those who've reviewed the case know better. DJ didn't just wander onto a track. He was intentionally struck, murdered, and left on the rails as part of a calculated cover-up on August 11, 2018, and as of June 2025, this case remains unsolved. Russell Keith Dardeen and his wife, Ruby Elaine, were the kind of couple you couldn't help but admire. They were deeply devoted to each other, raising their little boy Peter and expecting another child on the way. In 1986, they moved to Ina, Illinois, hoping for a simpler, safer life. They bought a modest trailer and quickly settled in. Keith had a job at the local water treatment plant, and Elaine worked at an office supply store. They were involved in their church, friendly with neighbors, just good, hard-working people trying to build a life. But by late 1987, that peaceful life they were chasing started to feel like a false promise. Crime in Jefferson County had been creeping up. In just 2 years, there'd been 15 homicides, and Keith was getting uneasy. He even turned away a woman who came to their door one night asking to use the phone. They'd already listed their trailer for sale and were planning to leave. Then came November 18th. That morning, Keith didn't show up to work, and he didn't call in either, which wasn't like him at all. His supervisor tried calling the house but got no answer, so he reached out to Keith's parents, but they hadn't heard from him either. That evening, Keith's dad, Don, drove to Ina to meet deputies and check on the family. When they stepped into the trailer, nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to find. Elaine was there, and little Peter, and the newborn baby girl they were expecting, Casey Elaine. All 3 of them were dead. Elaine had been bound with duct tape and brutally beaten with a baseball bat, the same bat Keith had given Peter for his birthday earlier that year. The beating had caused Elaine to go into labor. She gave birth in the middle of that horror, and the killer killed the baby as well. And then, as if the violence wasn't sick enough, the killer had actually cleaned up. The killer placed all three of them in the bed together like they were tucking them in for the night. There was no sign of forced entry. Nothing had been stolen. Jewelry, cash, electronics, everything was still there. And Keith, he was gone. His red 1981 Plymouth was missing, and at first, police feared the worst, that he'd done this, that maybe something inside him had snapped. Armed officers even showed up at his mother's house, but that theory didn't last long. The next day, a group of hunters found Keith's body in a field just a mile away from the trailer. He'd been shot 3 times and mutilated. And his car, it was parked outside the police station in Benton, 11 miles from the trailer, with blood all over the inside. Forensic tests later showed that all 4 Dardeens had died within just hours of each other. There was no sign of a robbery. Elaine hadn't been sexually assaulted. The killer had taken their time, cleaned up the scene, staged the bodies. It was all deeply disturbing and completely senseless. Police worked the case hard and questioned over 100 people. A co-worker Keith had argued with was cleared. A small amount of marijuana was found in the trailer, but investigators didn't think it meant anything. It might have even been left behind by the killer. Still, the case went cold. Keith's mom, Joanne, fought like hell to keep the story alive. She gathered thousands of signatures and tried to get the case on the Oprah Winfrey Show, but producers said it was too graphic. Even America's Most Wanted turned it down at first. They finally aired a segment in 1998, but it led nowhere. Then, in 2000, the case popped back up. A serial killer named Tommy Lynn Sells, already on death row in Texas, started confessing to murders all over the country. One of those was the Dardeens. He gave multiple versions of how he met Keith at a truck stop, a gas station, maybe a pool hall. In one version, Keith invited him over for dinner and then supposedly suggested a threesome. Another time, Sells said he just saw the for sale sign on the trailer and took advantage. However, none of it added up, and Sells was a known liar who confessed to dozens of crimes he didn't commit. Joanne Dardeen wanted to believe him at first. She needed closure. But as the years went on, she stopped believing a word he said. By the time he was executed in 2014, most investigators had written him off too. They believe he was responsible for a handful of murders, but not this one. So what really happened to the Dardeens? Nobody knows. The violence seems personal, but no one had a problem with Keith or Elaine. Some think it may have been a drifter, maybe even a stalker who became fixated on the family. Others believe more than one person could have been involved, especially since Keith was killed in a completely different location. What sticks with people the most is the level of cruelty and how calm the killer seemed. This wasn't rushed, it wasn't chaotic, it was cold and deliberate. The Dardeen family was brutally killed on November 17, 1987, and after nearly 40 years, we're no closer to knowing why. Kimber Leanne Lucas was born on July 29, 1969, and raised in Halifax, Nova Scotia. She came from a good home, did well in school, and was once full of promise. She loved sports, dreamed of becoming a fashion model, and was remembered as a bright, energetic young woman. But like so many others, life took an unexpected turn. Kimber became addicted to crack cocaine, and that addiction led her into a life of sex work and petty crime. By the fall of 1994, 25-year-old Kimber was 7 months pregnant and trying to find her way back to stability. She had told friends she wanted to get off the streets and reclaim her life. Tragically, she would never get that chance. In the early morning hours of November 23, 1994, Kimber was last seen near North Street and Maitland Street in Halifax, sometime between 1:30 and 3:30 a.m. Just a few hours later, at 8:41 a.m., police responded to a call behind 5783 North Street. There, in the back alley of the building, they found Kimber's body. She had sadly been stabbed to death. Her death quickly became one of the most disturbing unsolved cases in Halifax, and it sent shockwaves through the community, especially those in the same line of work as Kimber. She wasn't just a young woman caught in a dangerous lifestyle. She was a mother-to-be, trying to change her future. Yet much of the media coverage focused on her criminal record rather than her humanity. Her dreams, her past achievements, and the nearly 300 mourners who attended her funeral at a Baptist church on what is now Nora Bernard Street were largely overlooked. There were warning signs in the days leading up to her death. According to her aunt, Toonie Flint, Kimber had been warned that 3 men were looking for her and intended to cause her harm. Her murder was later suspected to be connected to the killing of another sex worker, Brenda Way, who was found dead in Dartmouth 1 year later, in November 1995. In 2000, 6 years after Kimber's murder, Halifax police revealed that they had both a DNA profile and a suspect, but the two didn't match. That same year, they questioned convicted serial killer Michael Wayne McGray, who had claimed to have killed 16 people across Canada and the U.S., including a sex worker in Halifax. But McGray couldn't recall the name or the date, and no definitive link to Kimber was ever established. Her case was later added to Nova Scotia's Rewards for Major Unsolved Crimes program, which offers up to $150,000 for information leading to an arrest and conviction. Kimber Lucas was murdered on November 23, 1994, and as of June 2025, her case remains unsolved. Melissa Ann Trumpy was born on October 13, 1984. At age 37, she was a devoted mother of 3 children who meant the world to her. She lived in Monticello, Wisconsin, and was trying to rebuild her life, but on the night of October 26, 2021, Melissa vanished without a trace, and her loved ones have been seeking answers ever since. That Tuesday evening, Melissa left her job in Monroe, Wisconsin, around 10:30 p.m. and traveled approximately 40 miles in a rented truck to Shannon, Illinois. Her destination was the home of her boyfriend, 35-year-old Derek Hammer. She was last seen at the home of Derek's mother in Shannon, where witnesses reported seeing her late that night. According to Melissa's sister, Derek and Melissa left together around midnight or shortly after, but Derek reportedly returned alone between 3 and 4 a.m. Melissa has not been seen or heard from since. Her sudden disappearance raised alarm bells almost immediately. When Melissa failed to show up for work the next morning, her family reported her missing. Just over a week later, on November 4th, her rented vehicle was found abandoned at the intersection of West Pearl City Road and South Bolton Road in rural Freeport, Illinois, approximately 16 miles from where she was last seen. The truck was in working condition, and inside were her phone, keys, wallet, and other personal items. Police believe the location of the vehicle may have been chosen to mislead investigators. In the days and weeks following her disappearance, a disturbing pattern of abuse began to surface. Melissa had confided in friends that she was afraid of Derek Hammer and reluctant to visit him that night. Just a month prior, Melissa's young son told a teacher that Derek had struck his mother and held her at gunpoint. Around that same time, Derek was arrested in Greene County, Wisconsin, on multiple charges related to domestic abuse involving Melissa. Both Melissa and Derek had been arrested on September 24, 2021, following a search warrant executed by the Greene County Sheriff's Office, State Line Area Narcotics Task Force, and several other law enforcement agencies. The search led to the seizure of drugs and firearms, and both were charged with numerous offenses. Derek faced 2 counts of disorderly conduct, battery, 2 counts of child neglect, maintaining a drug trafficking dwelling, drug possession, and being a felon in possession of a firearm. Melissa was charged with child neglect, possession of THC, and possession of drug paraphernalia. She was released pending her court appearance, which was scheduled for after her disappearance. Records from the Wisconsin Circuit Court Access System show Melissa had an initial appearance on October 18, 2021, and a public defender was appointed for her on October 27, just 1 day after she went missing. Some have speculated about the timing, questioning whether Melissa may have fled to avoid prosecution. However, her family strongly disputes this theory, pointing instead to her ongoing cooperation with law enforcement and the clear danger she felt from Derek Hammer. His criminal history only deepens the suspicion. In 2019, he was paroled from the High Desert State Prison in Nevada after being convicted of battery by strangulation and possession of explosives. He has also been charged with kidnapping, firearm violations in Illinois, and domestic abuse. Despite these serious allegations and his violent background, Derek has never been officially named a suspect or person of interest in Melissa's disappearance. In 2023, Hammer was sentenced to 5 years in prison on unrelated charges stemming from the earlier domestic abuse and drug investigation involving Melissa. During the sentencing, Melissa's daughter, Delana, gave emotional testimony. She shielded her face from Derek and bravely told the court, "I will never have my mommy back." Her heartbreak captured what Melissa's children have endured since that night. Her 2 younger children, Josie and Maddo, have also spoken about their mother with painful honesty. They remember her as the heart of their home, someone who made holidays special, who danced with them in the kitchen, who was always there when they were hurt or sick. The search for Melissa has involved multiple agencies, including the FBI, Illinois State Police, Greene County Sheriff's Office, and the Federal Fish and Wildlife Police. They've used helicopters, K-9 units, sonars, drones, and ground teams to search creeks, cornfields, ditches, bridges, and woods in and around Shannon and Freeport. Despite extensive efforts, no trace of Melissa has been found. Derek's mother, Denise Hammer, has further fueled suspicion by allegedly changing her account of events multiple times, including while under oath. Those close to the case have questioned her credibility and whether she may be withholding crucial information. Adding to the confusion, when Derek was arrested again, a private page called Greene County Scanner shared the booking information online. Some falsely believed it was posted by the sheriff's department to humiliate Derek, but the department only listed it among their standard overnight reports. Melissa's family and advocates have urged the public to focus on facts, not rumors, and to stop spreading misinformation that diverts attention from the ongoing investigation. Melissa is described as 5 foot 10 inches, 163 pounds, with strawberry blonde hair, blue eyes, and multiple tattoos on her chest, arms, and legs. She had a full sleeve on her right arm extending to her chest, a matching sleeve on her left leg, a tattoo inside her right middle finger, and another on her right ankle. Melissa also had several facial piercings. She was last seen wearing a black long-sleeve Michael Kors shirt, a black vest, black leggings, and sparkly Ugg-style boots. Melissa Trumpy went missing on the night of October 26, 2021, and as of June 2025, she remains missing, and her case remains officially unsolved. Terri Marie Howell was born on July 1, 1956. At age 24, she lived in Owensboro, Kentucky, and was known as a loving mother to her 4-year-old son, Kenny. For Terri, the night of July 24, 1980, started as a casual evening out with a friend, but turned into one of the most haunting unsolved murders in Daviess County history. Terri was last seen in the early morning hours of July 25th, leaving a bar and restaurant called the Hasty Tasty on East 4th Street with her friend Janice Hasty. Witnesses said the 2 women left with an unknown man driving a light blue 1960s Ford passenger car, described as a 2-door model with round lights and an automatic transmission. The driver was a slender white male with brown hair, around 5 feet 10 inches tall. The man claimed he'd give the women a ride home, but instead of heading toward their neighborhoods, he turned the car east toward the rural outskirts of Daviess County. Janice grew nervous. As the car approached the intersection of Highway 144 and Reed Road, she jumped out, terrified, and walked back home. She never saw Terri again. Later that same day, around 5 p.m., a volunteer firefighter spotted smoke coming from an abandoned farmhouse on Lanham Road near Knottsville. As he approached the burning building, he saw what appeared to be a human body inside, but was unable to reach it. When firefighters arrived and extinguished the blaze, they discovered the charred, naked body of a young woman under a pile of intentionally arranged debris. She had no visible stab wounds, and it was later determined that she had died before the fire was set, likely from strangulation. But what happened in the hours between Janice's daring escape and the fire remains a mystery. The woman was initially buried as a Jane Doe. Terri's mother, Ava Merle Wortham, had already reported her missing by the time the fire was broadcast on the evening news. When she saw the footage of the body being carried from the farmhouse, she felt a sickening certainty it was her daughter. The next day, Terri was identified through dental records and a blouse found nearby. Shockingly, her body had already been buried by the time her family was officially informed. Terri's case immediately raised red flags. Why was she buried so quickly? Who paid for her funeral? And why were the autopsy samples and photographs never preserved? The investigation, already hampered by the era's limited forensic capabilities, was further stalled by these critical missteps. Despite the passage of time, her family never gave up. Her mother, Ava, became a fierce advocate until her death in 2021. That role is now carried on by Penny Thomas, the mother of Terri's grandchildren, who manages the Justice for Terri Howell, Owensboro, Kentucky Facebook page. Penny has now uncovered connections and names long overlooked, including a local man named Philip Payne, who reportedly owned a car matching the suspect description and lived just minutes from where Terri's body was found. Multiple locals told Penny that Payne had a criminal record stretching back to the 1970s, and some claimed to have seen him at the Hasty Tasty that night. Others suggested he was connected to people in law enforcement, and one person even claimed to have been to the farmhouse with him before. Though this information is circumstantial, it adds new urgency to the question, why hasn't he been investigated further? The house where Terri was found was a known party spot, and several of her belongings were scattered nearby. Her purse along Kentucky 1389, her blouse 100 yards from the body. Beer cans were also found, but offered no usable DNA. Terri's case was reopened in 2010 by Detective Mike Pieri, who re-interviewed witnesses and first responders and uncovered details that had never been officially documented. Yet, despite renewed efforts in 2023, including cold case training and public outreach from Sheriff Brad Youngman, modern forensic testing has been hindered by the poor condition of evidence and missing records. Experts say examining her body wouldn't yield any new results, and no crime scene photos remain. To this day, crucial questions remain unanswered. Who was the man driving that blue Ford? Why was Terri buried so quickly, and by whom? What happened in the hours after she disappeared? And how many people know the truth but have remained silent? Authorities still believe someone out there knows the truth, and that even after all these years, it's not too late to come forward. Terri was murdered on July 25, 1980, and as of June 2025, this case remains unsolved.